Thank you for joining us. Today I have a really special guest, my friend Nehaa Goyal of Nehaa Goyal Shroom Reading, and we are going to learn, hey Joinetti, we're going to learn more about the work that Nehaa does and a little bit more about who she is. I'm excited for this conversation because this has been a woman that I followed ever since I got onto Instagram, and I've learned so much from her. She is so intelligent. And hello, Neha. How are you,
Namaste,
my friend?
Leah. I'm doing good. How are you? How is everyone?
So I love that you are so versed in so many areas and you bring in so many different modalities that can be used in our healing. So I do want to get into that, but one of the things I want to talk about, Neha, is I want to speak about sacred geometry, because that's something I know that you love so much, and I am beginning to kind of dive a little deeper into that. And you and I talked before that, my goodness, if that was part of the curriculum when we were learning geometry, what would we have taken in? Because, you know, I remember that time in school, and I don't think I did very well in geometry. But had I been introduced to it in the way that you teach it and the way that we see it in the world, I would have been more open and maybe gained a different understanding. So I'm now, as an adult, learning more about geometry and sacred geometry and how we see it everywhere. So I just want you to share a little bit about sacred geometry, whatever you want to say about it.
Thanks, Leah. That's a very good space to begin with. So, first let's understand what does sacred mean. Sacred means anything which is perfect, which is the truth,
The
and
truth.
also something which is applicable to the entire universe. It has nothing to do with only us humans or only the earth. Sacred means something which is utilized, an intelligence which is utilized in the entire universe, which
I
which
love
is
that.
why we worship it, which is why it is sacred, because it speaks through all of us, even that which we cannot understand, even that which we haven't seen yet. And when we fit in geometry over here, the point is that let's look at the macro right now. Okay, what does the macro from a human perspective could mean is a space, that there are numbers involved, that there is a particular distance between the sun and the earth and the moon, and the sun and the moon, or earth and the Mars. And if that number, if that distance was any less or any more, the solar system or the space wouldn't have been the way it is today. Maybe things would have, the gravitation wouldn't have been the way it is, which is that it is holding the things as they are holding. We wouldn't have been the way we are today. And then if you look at it from a micro level, as it from a human perspective level, look at how sacredly geometrical we are. Like, have you ever thought that why is it that we have two eyes? Yes, the symmetry and also the numbers which are involved in the intelligence of making us. That why is it we have two eyes and not five? Or why is it who decided that we should have 2 ears and not one? Or that we should have one neck and not 50, right? So there are numbers which are speaking through our entire body as well. And those numbers are such that they are very, again, as if some intelligence has been put across to decide that how many of what are we going to have, which is going to allow us the life that we are living today. Now, when you bring all of that intelligence into a much more personal level, which is what is our own sacred geometry, it is the date of birth that we are born in. I mean, that's not a coincidence. That we decided to incept ourselves into this earth from a karmic pattern point of view, into what we are to learn or unlearn through being a human being at this particular date, when the sacred geometry of the universe or the solar system, which means all the planets going to be at a particular place, are going to be the way they are, because they are a direct reflective of who we are, what our soul is. So sacred is like we are actually a micro level of what is working at a macro level. And just because that is sacred, so are we sacred. And once we start interacting with the connection of that sacredness, of that intelligence between that and this, somewhere the boundary actually dissipates. And which is what I have seen, that I have experienced in my life as well, which the ancients used to call that noticing the omens, noticing what happened. It just makes you so observational that we start noticing what's happening around us. Just as we spoke about the energy, that you are somebody who speaks about trauma, sexual trauma, and so much more. And I just did the womb healing session. Isn't that, uh, like that is sacred, right? That both of us are speaking, like those two energies coming together at the same time, and interacting at this particular time at the platform.
Oh,
So
Nika.
there is a sacred intelligence, sacred geometry, which is involved, whether we want it or not, which is why it is sacred, which is why it is that no matter how hard we try, we might not be able to pinpoint that this is why it is happening, because it's a universal truth.
A
Right.
universal truth, a cosmic truth. I like that you started off with what is sacred. Sacred is truth. Sacred is the laws of the universe, and it's something that pertains to us all. I like that you spoke of on the macro level, that if anything were to be shifted, even just slightly in the universe, the we wouldn't be here. And I love that
Exactly.
so much, because when we bring it down to the micro, to ourselves, if we can adopt that same belief that if any slight change had occurred, if anything was done differently in our life, we would not be where we are in this moment. We would not be who we are in this moment. And that's such an important it's such an important piece of information for us to hear and to take in, that if anything was shifted in the planets, we would not be here. If anything was shifted within our life, we would not be here. So to
Absolutely.
embrace as it is, right? To embrace as it is. And